Baba Vanga warned of the Black August, and now we see why. Why does August feel different? It's not just the heat, it's the silence, the strange weight in the air, the quiet sense that something unseen is shifting beneath the surface. Baba Vanga once warned of a Black August, a time when truth would fade, systems would quietly crack, and the world would begin to change, not with explosions, but with silence. Now, in August 2025, her prophecy feels chillingly close. This isn't about doomsday, it's about slow unraveling. Digital glitches, mental fog, nature behaving strangely, and truth slipping through our fingers. In this episode of The Journey of Wisdom, we explore how Baba Vanga's mysterious vision may be unfolding right now, softly, silently, and all around us. So ask yourself, are you just living through August, or starting to feel what it really means? Let's begin. Number 1. Why August? Why does August seem to echo with such an eerie sense of destiny? Baba Vanga, the mysterious blind mystic from Bulgaria, once warned, "In the 8th month of a trembling year, light will fall and truth will break into silence." At first, such a statement might seem like poetic riddle, but when we begin to examine the rhythms of history and the patterns unfolding in our present time, her words gain a strange and unsettling clarity. August, the 8th month, has been a quiet harbinger of change. Unlike the noisy headlines that fill our screens, the real shifts often happen beneath the surface, in stillness, in silence, and in the calm before the world tilts. Let's take a moment to walk through some of the echoes of August in history. In August 1914, the world plunged into its first Great War, a conflict so massive and transformative that it changed the shape of nations and the very way we see humanity. The fighting may have started with bullets, but the real war began with decisions made quietly in offices, war rooms, and parliaments. Then, in August 1945, the world witnessed the devastating power of a single bomb dropped on Hiroshima, an event that not only ended a world war, but introduced humanity to a new era of existential threat. Fast forward to August 1991, the Soviet Union, one of the two great powers of the Cold War, began to unravel after a failed coup. What once seemed like an unshakable global force crumbled without a full-scale battle again, quietly and almost overnight. These events remind us that change doesn't always arrive with a crash. It often arrives like a shadow at dusk. August 2008 brought a financial reckoning. The collapse of Lehman Brothers wasn't just a banking failure. It marked the beginning of a global financial crisis that impacted millions of lives. Families lost homes, savings vanished, and governments struggled to respond, all triggered by quiet decisions made in boardrooms and behind closed doors. And more recently, August 2021 became a symbol of collapse and retreat as the capital of Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. It wasn't just a political shift, it was the end of a 20-year chapter in global intervention, played out not with victory parades, but with haunting images of desperation and withdrawal. When Baba Vanga spoke of August, she may have been pointing to something more subtle than catastrophe. August, she implied, is not a month of explosion, but of erosion, the quiet kind that reshapes landscapes and nations alike. It's not the month when the storm hits, but when the winds begin to change, almost unnoticed. That's what makes it so significant. It is not a moment of loud collapse, but of deep and lasting transition, often invisible until it has already happened. And it is in this silence that truth tends to rise, not with trumpet calls, but like a whisper that breaks a long-held illusion. Perhaps then, we should not look at August with fear, but with awareness. It is a time when we are called to pay attention, to look beneath the surface of what we think we know, and to listen to the silence. because in that silence, history often turns a page, and in those quiet pages, our future is quietly written. Number 2. Core themes in Baba Vanga's prophecy. Baba Vanga's chilling vision of a Black August was never just a prediction of visible disaster or dramatic world events. It was a deeper, more unsettling warning about a quiet unraveling beneath the surface of modern life. Her prophecy speaks not of explosions or chaos, but of subtle shifts in consciousness, energy, and truth that would slowly erode the foundations of how we live, think, and connect. As August 2025 unfolds, many of her cryptic words are no longer confined to folklore or fringe theory. They are beginning to reflect strange and undeniable patterns in our reality. One of the most striking themes now emerging is a profound shift in human awareness and the energetic atmosphere. Across Europe and Asia, neurologists are puzzled by an uptick in unusual brainwave activity in otherwise healthy individuals, anomalies that can't be easily explained by medical science. People are reporting strange sensations in the air, heightened emotional instability, and a nagging feeling that reality itself feels slightly altered or unreal, as if something invisible is pressing in from the edges of our perception. This isn't just emotional turbulence, it points to a potential energetic transformation, one that Baba Vanga may have seen as the beginning of a new, uncertain phase in human evolution. At the same time, August has brought an unsettling wave of technological disruptions that go far beyond the usual glitches. Satellite signals have gone dark over certain regions without explanation. In Southeast Asia, temporary shutdowns of air traffic control systems raised alarm without any confirmed cause. Banks around the world reported mysterious data lags that stalled transactions worth billions, and a global internet routing failure briefly impacted major infrastructures across continents. While officials offer vague technical justifications, behind the scenes, some experts are whispering about possible electromagnetic interference or even targeted digital manipulation, echoing Baba Vanga's warning that the lights will go off, not because of the storm, but because of the silence. In that same silence, we are seeing the Earth itself behave unpredictably. Recent NOAA reports confirm a rise in geomagnetic disturbances and unusual solar fluctuations, low-frequency tremors in the sun's activity that subtly affect everything from wildlife to technology. Migratory birds are getting lost. Whales are beaching in record numbers. GPS systems are misfiring. Meanwhile, the magnetic North Pole continues its rapid, unexplained drift toward Siberia, a measurable reality that eerily mirrors Vanga's cryptic line. The North will become South, and the West will cry in the East's shadow. As these physical and digital disruptions unfold, people across the globe are also reporting more personal, internal disturbances. A fog seems to be settling over the collective mind. Memory lapses, confusion about time, emotional disconnection, and deep fatigue that no amount of rest can fix. These symptoms, while hard to diagnose, are becoming too common to dismiss and may be connected to constant exposure to electromagnetic frequencies, digital overload, and the endless stream of algorithm-driven content that dulls awareness and warps our sense of reality. But perhaps most unsettling of all is the quiet normalization of censorship, where truth is not destroyed, but gently silenced. Around the world, we're seeing internet blackouts during moments of political tension, tighter control over what can be said online, and the slow, almost invisible muting of dissenting voices. Baba Vanga warned that truth will sleep for a season, and that seems to be exactly what is happening, not through loud tyranny, but through a culture of fatigue, distraction, and passive acceptance. These 5 themes, energetic shifts, digital breakdowns, magnetic anomalies, psychological disturbance, and subtle suppression, are not random events. Together, they create a pattern that aligns with what Baba Vanga foresaw, a world unraveling not in fire and fury, but in silence, confusion, and quiet collapse. And perhaps that is the most dangerous kind of change, the kind that doesn't announce itself, but waits in stillness until it is too far along to reverse. Number 3. Signs from nature and the earth. Let's now look at something many of us often overlook, the quiet messages coming from the earth itself. While Baba Vanga spoke often about global systems collapsing, about political confusion and psychological unrest, she also made it clear that nature would be one of the most honest messengers in times of great imbalance. She believed that long before human leaders admit something is wrong, the earth would already be showing us the signs through its skies, its air, its fire, and its trembling ground. And as August 2025 unfolds, those signs have become impossible to ignore. Have you heard the reports of strange, silent fireballs streaking across skies in places as far apart as South America and Southeast Asia? Eyewitnesses describe glowing orbs flying overhead bright as flame, but completely silent, leaving no sound, no debris, and no clear scientific explanation. Some experts hesitate to call them meteors, others wonder if they're atmospheric re-entry anomalies, but the truth is, no one really knows. Yet Baba Vanga once gave a chilling warning: when the sky shows you fire but you hear no thunder, that is when the silence begins. Now ask yourself, what kind of silence was she talking about? And are we standing in it now without realizing it? In other parts of the world, wildfires are devouring forests and skies alike. Across North America, Europe, and Asia, the once blue sky has turned a strange reddish haze. Even in broad daylight, the sun appears veiled, distorted, as if filtered through sadness. Many people describe the air as tasting metallic, thick, and heavy, not just smoky, but unnerving. This strange phenomenon brings to life Vanga's haunting words: "The air will taste like iron, and the light will carry sorrow." These weren't just poetic phrases. Could it be that she was describing the emotional weight of seeing the planet suffer of breathing in the consequence of imbalance? But perhaps the most unsettling part of all is what's happening below us. In recent weeks, dormant volcanoes along the Pacific Rim have begun to stir without eruption. Undersea tectonic plates near the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean are showing strange, inconsistent patterns. Some geologists report tremors that don't behave like ordinary earthquakes, vibrations that seem to pulse as if the earth itself is breathing. Baba Vanga once said, "The ground will breathe like lungs before it roars," and now that phrase echoes like a warning from beneath our feet. If the earth is breathing, what is it preparing to say? What roar is coming? These are not random natural events. When we look closely, they reflect a deeper spiritual and ecological disruption. These aren't just environmental issues, they're part of a larger pattern. A pattern that connects the unrest in human hearts with the restlessness in the land, the air, and the skies. Vanga believed nature's voice would rise when we refused to listen through reason, and now the signs are clear for those willing to look. So here's a question for you. Are we paying attention, or are we brushing these signs off as coincidence? Because maybe, just maybe, the earth isn't reacting its warning. And the real question is, what are we going to do with that warning? If you've made it this far, you're clearly seeking deeper truth in what's unfolding around us. Comment below with Black August revealed to show you're awake and paying attention. Don't click away yet, there's still more to uncover about Baba Vanga's chilling warning and how it connects to the world today. Stay until the end to grasp the full message behind this powerful prophecy. Number 4. Signs of economic crisis. Now let's turn our attention to something that touches each of us, whether we realize it or not: our wallets, our jobs, the prices we pay, and the quiet shifts happening in the world's economy. Baba Vanga once made a cryptic reference to a black ledger, and while that may have sounded abstract or symbolic in the past, today in August 2025, many are starting to wonder if it wasn't a metaphor at all, but a warning. A ledger, after all, is a place where debts are recorded, and the idea of a hidden, growing debt, one not seen in plain sight, is beginning to feel less like mysticism and more like reality. Right now, around the globe, we're seeing financial systems under immense pressure. Inflation has reached levels that were unthinkable just a few years ago. Whether you're in a developed country or a developing one, your paycheck probably doesn't stretch as far, your savings feel smaller, and everyday necessities cost more than ever before. Central banks, the same institutions once believed to be in full control of economies, are struggling to contain the damage. Interest rates are swinging, currencies are fluctuating wildly, and the sense of financial predictability that people once trusted is slipping away. You've probably felt this in your own life. Have you noticed how financial news used to feel distant, something that only affected Wall Street or global banks? But now, it feels personal. Baba Vanga may have foreseen this shift when she spoke of a hidden force reshaping the world not through explosions but through economic erosion. She warned that even the proudest towers would see their coin turn to dust. And today, that line hits differently as we watch major institutions lose influence and digital currencies, decentralized finance, and alternative economic alliances start taking root beyond the reach of the old financial order. Transactions are happening more and more outside traditional institutions like the IMF and World Bank, and powerful new players are shaping markets behind closed doors, away from headlines. This, some believe, is the true black ledger, a growing shadow economy built not on trust and transparency, but on secrecy, speculation, and unrecorded debt. It's not a sudden collapse like a stock market crash, it's a slow leak in the foundation, where confidence is eroding bit by bit. You don't see it on the surface, but beneath it all, there's movement, a recalibration of power, wealth, and control. And that's what makes this moment so critical. Are we in a time of crisis, or are we just watching the old world quietly transition into a new one? Maybe the real danger isn't in the fall, but in failing to notice the fall already happening. Baba Vanga's vision of Black August continues to unfold, not in loud catastrophes, but in these kinds of subtle, systemic shifts. So the question is, are we truly prepared to see what's changing, or are we clinging to the illusion that things will simply go back to normal? Because in this economic silence, the signs are speaking, and it's up to us to decide whether we're listening. Number 5. The Rise of the Sleeping Nation. Now we come to one of Baba Vanga's most mysterious and thought-provoking prophecies, her statement that a nation will rise not with armies, but with a mirror. For years, this line puzzled scholars and spiritual seekers alike, uncertain whether she was speaking of politics, revolution, or something more symbolic. But in the unfolding reality of August 2025, the message is beginning to clarify, not in a conventional geopolitical sense, but through a subtle and powerful shift in global awareness. What if this nation isn't a place on a map at all, but a reflection of the voices that have been long silenced peoples without recognized borders, whose cultural identities and human dignity have been ignored for generations? The struggles of stateless populations like the Palestinians, the Kurds, the Rohingya, and others have gained renewed global focus, not through violent uprisings, but through an awakening of empathy, media exposure, and the strength of shared human experience. In this way, the mirror Baba Vanga spoke of may represent the growing visibility of these forgotten communities as they finally stand reflected in the global consciousness. But the meaning doesn't stop there. Some now believe she was also speaking of a new kind of nation altogether, one that doesn't exist in soil or territory, but in cyberspace. We're seeing the emergence of digital collectives built on blockchain technology, crypto governance, decentralized platforms, and ideologies that transcend national borders. These digital citizens form communities around shared values rather than geography, and through technology, they challenge the authority of outdated institutions, exposing corruption, censorship, and inequality with cold precision. These systems don't wage war, they reveal hypocrisy. And that act of reflection, of holding a mirror to power, might be the true force Vanga foresaw. As people grow more disillusioned with traditional politics and media manipulation, they are turning instead to each other, to independent voices, decentralized platforms, and collective truth-seeking. This sleeping nation is awakening, not through violence, but through clarity, through the courage to question the narrative, and through the undeniable momentum of truth that crosses language, religion, and class. It's not a government, it's a movement, not a military, but a shared realization. And in this way, Baba Vanga's vision begins to make perfect sense. She was pointing not to a battlefield, but to a battle of awareness. In her words, not with armies, but with a mirror. She predicted a time when truth itself would rise like a force, exposing lies, lifting voices, and connecting people in ways no flag or border could contain. And so the question becomes, are we recognizing this sleeping nation as it stirs around us, or are we still expecting change to come dressed as conflict? Because perhaps the most powerful uprising of our time will not be televised, weaponized, or nationalized, but simply realized together, as the mirror of truth is finally held up to a world that can no longer look away. Number 6. Collective forgetting. Now we come to one of Baba Vanga's most quietly disturbing prophecies, not one of war, natural disasters, or political collapse, but something far more subtle and deeply personal, the fading of memory. She warned, people will forget not by force, but by fog. And those words, once thought to be poetic or symbolic, now feel eerily literal in the world of August 2025. The danger she spoke of isn't loud or obvious. It doesn't arrive with violence or censorship in the traditional sense. Instead, it creeps in softly through overstimulation, screen addiction, and the constant bombardment of meaningless information. In this digital age, where we scroll endlessly, where artificial intelligence filters what we see, and where every second of attention is being monetized, we are slowly losing something essential: our ability to remember clearly, to think deeply, and to stay present. Do you ever catch yourself forgetting what you just read, or feeling mentally drained after hours of staring at a screen? You're not alone. Across the world, people, especially younger generations, are experiencing shortened attention spans, increased emotional numbness, and a kind of mental fog that's hard to describe but easy to feel. This isn't just distraction, it's disconnection from time, from memory, and even from meaning. Psychologists are now sounding the alarm about a rise in cognitive disorders, memory loss without medical cause, and identity confusion among people who have grown up entirely in a digital world. It's as if we are not just forgetting history, we are forgetting how to carry it with us, how to reflect on it, and how to use it to imagine a better future. Baba Vanga's fog may well be this invisible cloud we now live inside, formed by algorithms, artificial intelligence, and passive consumption that numbs our thinking and clouds our inner lives. In a time when we have access to more information than ever before, are we actually remembering less? And if we forget how to think for ourselves, how to pause, reflect, and dream, what kind of future are we building? What happens to a society that loses its memory, not through oppression, but through convenience? The tragedy isn't that we're being forced to forget, it's that we're choosing it, without even realizing what we're giving up. And maybe that's the deepest warning of all. In this age of endless information, forgetting has become easy, almost natural. But if we don't start to reclaim our awareness, to resist the fog and reconnect with what truly matters, we may find ourselves lost in a world where nothing sticks, nothing matters, and nothing moves us. So the question is, how do we find our way back, not just to memory, but to meaning? You've just scratched the surface of Baba Vanga's haunting warning. Comment, "I see the signs," if you're beginning to connect the dots. There's more coming that could shift how you see this entire month, so stay with us and don't miss what's next. Number 7. The Blackout Sequence, a global pattern. Now let's take a closer look at something that's happening quietly, but globally, a pattern that may appear random on the surface, yet when examined closely, begins to resemble something much more intentional and alarming. Across continents, in the past few weeks alone, we've seen a series of sudden and unexplained disruptions. In Finland, a widespread power outage took major infrastructure offline without any clear technical fault. In Taiwan, a data blackout paralyzed communication networks and stalled logistics. And in Italy, a brief but deeply unsettling banking malfunction left people unable to access their funds, causing confusion and panic, even though the problem lasted just minutes. If you look at each of these events by itself, you might chalk it up to routine system failures or software glitches. But when you step back and see the bigger picture, you start to wonder, are these isolated incidents, or are they connected as part of something larger, something Baba Vanga may have foreseen? She once warned, "The lights will go off not because of the storm, but because of the silence." And that quote feels hauntingly appropriate as we watch what could be the slow unraveling of global synchronization. Our modern world relies on a fragile web of interconnected systems: electricity, finance, communications, transportation, all running in real time, across borders, with little room for error. But what happens when that synchronization begins to break? Cybersecurity experts and infrastructure analysts are starting to speak up, albeit cautiously, asking the very question that many are afraid to consider. Are we seeing the early signs of a coordinated global blackout sequence? Could these failures be linked by something more sinister than just technical errors like targeted cyber attacks, artificial intelligence probing weak points in critical infrastructure, or even geopolitical experiments in digital disruption? And if so, why are these events being so quickly normalized, downplayed in headlines, and forgotten by the public almost as soon as they happen? The truth is, the modern systems we depend on for our daily lives are far more vulnerable than we like to admit. August 2025 is revealing that our sense of stability may be more illusion than fact. What's even more unsettling is the psychological impact of this slow erosion. Each glitch chips away at our sense of security. Each brief outage whispers the possibility of a longer, more permanent one. And still, many of us continue as if nothing is wrong. But Vanga's prophecy wasn't just about physical blackouts. It was about awareness, fading, truth being drowned out by silence. When systems fall, they don't always crash with noise. Sometimes they collapse in quiet. So here's a question you might ask yourself. If the lights started to go out, would you recognize the warning signs, or would you just wait for someone to tell you what's happening after it's too late? Perhaps the real threat isn't the glitch itself, but how easily we've come to accept the idea that our global systems can fail, briefly, and we'll just move on. One piece at a time, one silence at a time. And maybe that's the true nature of this blackout sequence. It doesn't announce itself, it unfolds. Number 8. Final message and reflection. As we come to the final layer of Baba Vanga's prophecy, it becomes clear that what she was warning us about was never a dramatic apocalypse or a single world-ending event. It was something much more subtle, far more dangerous because of how quiet it is, an erosion, a gradual dismantling that doesn't scream for attention but settles in silently, unnoticed by many until it's already deep beneath the surface. August 2025 doesn't look like the end of the world. Instead, it feels like the slow fading of things we once depended on, truths we used to trust, systems we once believed were stable, and identities we thought were our own. What we're seeing now isn't collapse with explosions, it's collapse without noise. Systems are failing not with dramatic headlines, but with small, scattered signs. A power flicker here, a delay in information there, a quiet change in the algorithm that shapes what we see, what we think, and how we feel. Perception is becoming blurred, where truth feels more like a matter of opinion than something grounded. Identities, once anchored in culture and community, are dissolving under the constant pressure of digital mimicry, where we no longer know who we are without the approval of the feed. And then there's control not enforced by force, but internalized. We begin to self-censor. We monitor our own thoughts. We hesitate to speak not because we're silenced, but because we've been conditioned to doubt ourselves. Baba Vanga seemed to foresee not a burning world, but one slowly dimming. She described domination not through war, but through fatigue, mental, emotional, and spiritual fatigue. A world run not by tyrants, but by algorithms. Her prophecy was not about the fall of governments or the destruction of cities. It was about the slow rearrangement of human awareness, the dulling of our inner clarity, and the quiet reshaping of what it means to be conscious, to be awake. She didn't speak of fire raining from the skies, but of meaning slipping from our hands while we scroll endlessly, unsure what we're looking for. She didn't warn of war outside, but of war within a kind of inner unraveling that most people won't even notice until they feel empty, disconnected, or lost in a fog they can't explain. So if August feels strange to you, if time feels disjointed, if reality feels thinner somehow, and if you sense that something is shifting but you can't quite name it, then perhaps you're feeling exactly what she meant when she said the lights would go off, not because of the storm, but because of the silence. And maybe the most important question now is, are we still waiting for the collapse to look like a disaster, or are we beginning to realize that the collapse is already here, quietly unfolding inside us? Number 9. Call to action and personal reflection. Have you been feeling it lately, that strange, hard-to-describe sense that something in the world is shifting, even if you can't quite say how or why? Maybe it's a recurring dream that leaves you unsettled, a sudden rush of emotion that feels too heavy for the moment, or a growing sense that time itself is behaving oddly, as if days blur together or move too fast to keep up. Perhaps it's the quiet discomfort that things just feel off in ways that don't make headlines but still press gently on your awareness. If you've had these thoughts, even fleetingly, let me say this: you're not imagining it, and more importantly, you're not alone. In fact, what you're sensing may be the very thing Baba Vanga tried to prepare us for, not a loud collapse, not a single catastrophe, but a quiet wave of change that rises in the background of ordinary life. Right now, in August 2025, we're living through a time when the loudest transformations aren't visible, they're subtle, internal, and often unspoken. Systems are shifting, yes, but so are our thoughts, our beliefs, and our very sense of who we are in the world. What makes this moment so unique is that the most profound changes aren't being announced. They're unfolding softly beneath the surface of headlines, behind the scroll of social media, and within the private spaces of our own minds. And that's exactly why it's time to start paying closer attention. This isn't a call to panic, it's a call to awareness. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you noticed small details that don't add up? Do certain things feel off? but no one around you seems to mention them. What if those subtle observations, the ones we usually ignore, are actually clues? What if your gut feeling is your mind's way of trying to wake you up from a deeper sleep? Baba Vanga didn't speak only in predictions, she spoke in mirrors. Her prophecy of Black August wasn't just about global disruption, it was also about personal awakening. She warned that silence, fog, and disconnection would come not just from the outside world, but from within. And if we take her words seriously, then perhaps the real danger isn't what's happening to society, but what's happening inside of us. The loss of intuition, the numbing of awareness, the replacement of reflection with distraction. So what can you do about it? Start by sharing what you've noticed. No matter how small or strange it might seem, speaking about these quiet shifts helps others find their voice too. Next, challenge yourself to observe not just with your eyes, but with your full attention. Ask the hard questions. What feels hidden right now? Who decides what truths we're allowed to speak? What patterns do you sense in your daily life that don't seem random at all? These are not conspiracy theories or mystical riddles. They are invitations to step into awareness in a world that benefits from your silence. Baba Vanga's prophecy is not just a forecast, it's a reflection. Black August may mark a turning point in global events, but it also reflects our inner world back to us. The fog, the confusion, the quiet disconnection, they are not only external symptoms, they're internal signposts. So if something in you feels like it's trying to wake up, don't push it aside. Stay curious, stay grounded, stay aware, and most of all, don't let anyone tell you that what you feel doesn't matter, because it does. What you sense, however subtle, is part of a larger awakening that is quietly sweeping through the world. And this moment, right now, is asking you not to be passive, but to be present. The greatest message from Baba Vanga's warning is not to fear the dark, but to recognize when the light within you is being dimmed without your consent. So here's the takeaway. Trust your inner awareness. Share your truth even if your voice shakes. And remember that the collapse she spoke of wasn't just about systems, it was about forgetting who we are. And in a time when the world feels lost in the fog, perhaps your clarity is the most powerful contribution you can offer. So as we reflect on Baba Vanga's chilling vision of Black August, one thing becomes clear. It's not just about global collapse, but about subtle shifts that begin in silence. In the quiet moments between headlines, in the soft unraveling of systems and thoughts, we're being invited to wake up, to see, to question, and to feel. If this video has sparked something in you, a question, a memory, or even just a deeper awareness, hold on to it. That's where real change begins. And if you found value in this journey, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to The Journey of Wisdom. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming explorations into ancient teachings, modern truths, and quiet awakenings. This is not just a story about the world, it's a mirror held up to all of us. Until next time, stay aware, stay grounded, and keep walking your journey of wisdom.